Anatomy and Physiology 1, Muscles of the Thigh and Leg. We'll be using the model of the muscles of the lower limb, muscles of the human body, and the articulated skeleton to look at the origins and insertions of these muscles. The Sartorius muscle is a long strap-like muscle that runs obliquely over the thigh and over the medial side of the knee. It's shown here on our leg model, over the medial side of the knee. Its origin is on the anterior superior iliac spine. It runs obliquely along the thigh, and then inserts on the medial surface of the tibia. It flexes the knee and hip, abducts and rotates the thigh laterally, and rotates the leg medially. A large muscle group called quadriceps femoris occupies the front and sides of the thigh and is a primary extensor of the knee. Let's look at each of the four muscles in this group. First is the rectus femoris, and then on the lateral side of the leg is the vastus lateralis, and on the medial side is the vastus medialis. Deep to the rectus femoris, you can see the vastus intermedius. All four of these muscles have a similar insertion to the patella biligament, which continues as the patellar ligament to the tibial tuberosity. Each of the four muscles has a unique origin or origins. The rectus femoris, shown here in blue, has origins on the anterior superior iliac spine and the margin of the acetabulum. The vastus lateralis, shown here in yellow, has two origins, one on the greater trochanter and the posterior surface of the femur. The vastus medialis, shown here in red, has an origin on the medial surface of the femur, and the vastus intermedius, which again lies deep to the rectus femoris, has origins on the anterior and lateral surfaces of the femur. The action of these muscles is to extend the knee. The rectus femoris can also flex the hip because it's attached to the pelvis. The adductor magnus is the largest adductor of the thigh. It's a triangular muscle that connects the ischium to the femur. It adducts the thigh, and portions assist in flexing or extending the hip. Shown here on the muscles of the leg. Its origin is on the ischial tuberosity, and it inserts on the posterior side of the femur. The adductor magnus adducts the thigh, and also a posterior portion extends the hip, and an anterior portion flexes the hip. The gluteus maximus is the largest muscle of the body. It connects the ilium, sacrum, and coccyx to the femur by fascia of the thigh, and it extends the hip. It has origins on the posterior part of the ilium, the sacrum, the coccyx, and it inserts on the posterior side of the femur and the fascia of the hip. It extends the hips. The biceps femoris lies on the posterior side of the thigh and is one of the hamstring muscles, shown here in our leg muscle model. It has two heads and two insertions, as is suggested by the name biceps, one origin on the ischial tuberosity and the other on the posterior side of the femur, the linea aspera. It inserts on the head of the fibula. It flexes the knee, rotates the leg laterally, and extends the hip. A muscle that makes up part of the calf is called the gastrocnemius muscle. It has origins on the lateral and medial condyles of the femur, and it inserts on the posterior portion of the calcaneus. The lateral and medial portion, origins on the femur, and it inserts on the calcaneus. It inserts via the calcaneal tendon or the Achilles tendon. Its action is to flex the knee, and it's a powerful plantar flexor of the foot. Beneath the gastrocnemius lies the soleus. These two muscles together make the calf, and their action together is to plantar flex the foot. The soleus has origins on the head and shaft of the fibula and the posterior side of the tibia. And just like the gastrocnemius, it inserts on the calcaneus via the calcaneal or Achilles tendon. The tibialis anterior runs along the anterior side of the tibia. It has origins on the lateral condyle of the tibia and the lateral side of the tibia. Then it runs medially down towards the tarsals. And it inserts on the tarsal of the foot, specifically the medial cuneiform. Its action is dorsiflexion and inversion of the